Hi, it's Therese and I have a video over at the Waffle Flower channel and I thought I'd share it with you here today. Okay, so we've got the largest nested domes die which matches the arch die perfectly, and I've die cut one of each out of some white cardstock. Now at the moment I have left the pieces of the die in place with this arch die, but there are some flowers, a hanging basket and some leaves that you can actually cut away from the die and create your own little sort of elements to go with it. So I'm actually going to create my scene on the nested domes die cut, and I've got a piece of stamped masking paper that I've done a rough sort of snowy kind of ridge on. It's like just a swirly, I just draw it with a pencil and cut it. It's nothing fancy, and I'm using my blending tool with it's the grey ink called Like a Pro, and just blended a really sort of subtle background. Now I like to keep you guessing. That's why I kind of didn't realise I was a bit off camera here, but I'm using two different colours of ink to stamp a tree line along the snow ridge that I made, and it's the Chirp Chirp and the New Fishing Pond. And eventually I realised that I was off camera. I had masked out the triangle shaped trees just so that they look like they're at the front, and I'm coming in with some Prismacolor pencils and just really lightly colouring those in. So it's a fairly subtle card that I'm making today, and it's all in the same tones, so it's either in the blues or the sort of teal greens or the greens. And I love the big reveal that you get when you do peel away our mask. It's just fantastic. So I've actually cut the same mask to create my little ice pond for the critters to skate on, and I just used the same piece of masking paper to do this just because it was there. This colour that I'm using here is New Fishing Pond, and I am making this very light. And you can actually see it, but you know, it is I didn't want any bold colours really in this card. The sky, I decided to just add a little bit of blending as well, using the same colour, the New Fishing Pond. And then I'm going to start working on my little critters that I want to use in my scene, and these are some mice from a set that's called Cold Hands, and they are so sweet. And these two mice are skating, and I've stamped them out in the Like a Pro, which is the grey ink, and I'm going to be doing some Prismacolor pencil colouring. Now I'm not actually going to blend these colours with Gamsol. I am just colouring them very lightly and using the wax pencils to blend themselves. If you wanted a smoother look, then you could just as easily use, you know, the Gamsol, or even, you know, some people use baby oil or white odorless mineral spirit. It's depending on the look that you want, the finished look that you want. So I'm using some of the kind of pale warm greys, and I am shading just a little bit. I was really struggling to stay on camera today, wasn't I? I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, the colours, like I said, are going to be the same throughout the whole card. The pencils that I've used today will be listed at my blog, and I'll put the link in the YouTube description below. But you could use any pencils that you have in similar tones, or you could change it up and make it a nice bright scene. So I'm using the coordinating dies here. I'm just going to run this through my die cutting machine. I didn't stamp them far enough apart to run them through at the same time, but that's what I usually try and do. I just wasn't thinking when I was stamping them today. The swirl I'm stamping in the New Fishing Pond colour as well, and I just thought it needed a little something. So there's a bird sitting on a log, and I've just pretty much just stamped the bird itself with the grey ink. I'm going to colour it out. Now, because it was on the log and I didn't bother masking it out, the way I got around that was actually I drew the line of the bird, like the outline of the bird, back in with a grey pencil. and that seemed to work really well. I did actually fussy cut this out, just leaving a small white border, because obviously I couldn't use the coordinating die as I had actually only stamped half of the image. Okay, I wanted to add a few snowflakes to the sky, and what I'm doing here is actually second generation stamping. I wanted them to be really subtle. I did think about die cutting them because there is a matching die. I could have stamped and die cut them, but I still wanted to try and keep that kind of clean and simple look with this card, even though it's quite a busy design. So I'm just pick up the ink. I'm roughly working out where I want my stamps. That's why I'm holding the arch die in place. But what I'm doing here is pick up the ink, stamp it off on a piece of scrap cardstock or paper, and then just stamp it onto my panel that I've die cut already. Now, I just want to show you that this doesn't have to be the American size A2. You don't have to have that cardstock to be able to use these dies that have been released. I'm using an Australian sized piece of cardstock. I folded it in half-ish. But what I did was, before I cut it down, I made sure it was the correct width of the die. I've got a top fold card and I'm attaching my dome die. This is the largest one, just off the top. You can see there that I didn't actually cut it all the way around. So that way it's now a top fold card, and then I can just attach my panel that I created earlier to the front. How easy is that? It gives you a lovely shaped top fold card without any fuss. So I'm using my ATG adhesive and just making sure that I line up the base of the card, because obviously the top has been slightly cut off at the back, but you don't even notice it. It's just a tiny bit really. Now the arch window die, I'm using just a little bit of matte medium to hold this in place. I don't like to add too much, and I'm not adding any to the actual window portion of the die. You could, if you wanted to, stick those down, but I just wanted them to be a little bit interactive, I suppose. You could open them up if you wanted to. I just think it adds a little bit of fun dimension to the card. The mice themselves, I've added some tape runner to their feet and a pop dot behind their head, just so that the feet are actually stuck down on the ice rink, but they do pop off the card just a little bit. And I think these little guys are so cute. I especially like them coloured up in the grey, although I'm thinking hot pink. That'd be fun too. The little bird, I just used a glue dot behind that, and as a final touch I've got my quickie glue pen and I'm going to add just some dots of glue to the tops of the critters, and then I can add some really fine Prisma glitter to that, and that'll just add a little bit of interest to that card. This hasn't got any sentiment. I decided not to add a sentiment today. It's really unlike me. I could always add one later on once I decided whether I wanted to use it as a Christmas card or as a wintry card or just a fun sort of gift card for someone who likes to see mice skating, which is everybody obviously. And that's pretty much it for my card today. Now I'll link everything below, and I'll see you here again real soon. Till then, happy paper crafting. Bye.